Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Hocus Pocus. Of course, since it is Halloween, I decided, you know what, the fuck, I'm gonna do this. And I am glad that I did this, because this has usually been on, it's one of those kind of ones that's usually on all throughout the month. But I decided to pop in this Blu-ray and see what kind of goes on with this movie, because it's one of those ones that's perpetually on, kind of similar to A Christmas Story, but this one was interesting. When I was looking through, it didn't do that well when it first kind of came out, and I kind of understand why after sitting down and kind of looking through it and watching it. Now, it's still an interesting Halloween one. I like how it deals with witches and everything like that, and the spooky kind of season. But there are problems and issues that kind of popped up at me like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? Because normally it's one of those things that's always on, so you come at it in a certain kind of point, you're like, oh, I know I'm here, oh, I know I'm here. Once you kind of sit down and look and watch it all in one go, you're like, what the fuck here? So, we start off and pretty much are introduced to the Sanderson sisters. As we see, Bette Midler, Winnie, who's... I only always think of Sarah Jessica Parker as Sarah Jessica Parker's one, not like... God, I'm blanking on what her name is. Sarah. Oh, duh. That's probably why. And then Kathy Najimy as Mary. So, we see them pretty much in Salem in 1693. And we get introduced to Binks and Emily as we see that Sarah is luring Emily so that they can steal children's life force, pretty much eat them to be young. Now, this becomes important because with magic, there's different kind of costs. If this potion is for youth, that isn't going to help you if you're dead. It's a transfer of life essence in certain kind of instances, if this makes sense. Like, it mainly becomes an issue with what's kind of going on with the central conceit of the story after things start kind of rolling. Mainly, how spells are utilized and what their objectives are. Because we see them kind of bickering. We see that Winnie is the kind of head honcho one. Sarah is the kind of ditzoid one. Mary is not as ditzy, but kind of close and just like is trying to smell children. It's like, what the fuck is that? So she's kind of the bloodhound. But they utilize it. They suck Emily's life force and they become young. And when he's like younger, Binks is like, screw you. But then we see her utilizing pretty much spells without any kind of incantations or anything like that, with like kind of Palpatine electricity and telekinesis kind of stuff kind of going on. And then her and her sisters perform a curse on Binks. And I like how it's kind of a musical kind of quality, where it's done turning him into a cat and that he has to live forever with his guilt. This is important because it sets the stage for what immortality and everything kind of works on in this world. Because we see that he pretty much lives to present day, 1993, and he keeps coming back from things that, well, there's only one main thing that really pretty much kills him, and that he just then comes back. And then you're like, why the fuck does it because we don't really get hard rules on what kind of goes on with the magic here. It then becomes kind of whatever the plot's kind of convenient for. That becomes kind of important later on. It doesn't have to be completely and utterly defined, but we have to understand the rules of the world of what's kind of going on and why. So we see that the rest of the town finds them and hangs them, but not before her book kind of opens up and they pretty much talk and bring up that they'll come back if a virgin lights the black flame candle on All Hallows Eve. And Binks is left as a cat. He can't really communicate with his family, although later on he's able to speak in fucking English to people. It's like, okay. Now, he was just turned, so I give him leeway on that. Then we see that a teacher is talking about this whole kind of tale in Salem, and that Max, who is the California kid, who kind of gets shit on first and then talks about how Halloween is just a thing made by the candy company. It's like candy companies and everything. Before Allison, our next pretty much character that's important, pretty much schools his ass on it. It's like, god damn. Pretty much bringing up All Hallows Eve and everything like that. He then tries to give his number and pretty much flames out, and still tries to make on later on before pretty much trying to get home and getting accosted by these two bully people who take his shoes. Then, since he's been having such a shit day, his sister Danny is being more of a little shit and making fun of him for having feelings for Allison and saying that he has to take her trick-or-treating and still just being a complete and utter monster, pretty much. She's got no leeway for them having just moved here from the West Coast to the East Coast. No friends, everything like that. It gets kind of worse as he then takes her out trick-or-treating, and she pretty much is trying to set him upon all these guys that are pretty much taking other kids' candy with no kind of backup and anything like that. And just pretty much going, hey-ho, motherfucker, right into the goddamn breach. It's like, you're being a complete utter asshole. And I didn't even really seeing it was just a different kind of thing. I've got a soft spot for brother and sister relationships. She is acting like an unrepentant dick and pretty much sets him where he just gives the kid. She's like, you should have died like a man. It's like, are you the one that is going to go up against all those motherfuckers? Him saying you've embarrassed me in front of like all the guys at school. I'm like, those are probably just the dickhead guys. So one who gives really any kind of a shit. It's just, God, it really was like, god damn. And I understand him acting out and lashing out a little bit more as things kind of go on, though lighting the black flame candle to resurrect the Sanderson sisters to say, oh, whatever, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus. We see that they get to Allison's house, and she's one of the rich ones. Her family's throwing all this kind of party and shit. She doesn't want to go to the Sanderson house. She heard a lot of crazy ass shit. It's like, you've pretty much been driving this train. Now, even though you were making sense, he's going to do this with Allison. They kind of go there, and he's like, yep, doing this. And, of course, that brings the Sandersons back. And evidently, they are attempting to then do the Life Force children kind of thing. We don't know if they are brought back physically or, well, they're able to interact with the world. But a lot of the stuff that kind of starts to happen is just kind of strange. We get that the book was given to them by the Master, which is kind of contradicted in the second one. Don't worry, we're getting to that review as well, because I decided to do both of these, but separate videos. So they're pretty much going around. We see that they attempt to take Danny, but Max is able to pretty much run interference and uses his knowledge of the 20th century to pretty much turn on a sparkler system as they kind of run out. And the cat, Binks, is like, get the fuck out of here! And then they're pretty much trying to figure out what to do. He's like, yeah, I was trying to guard the fucking thing so no fucking virgin would light the black flame candle. Which is then kind of contradicted at the end where he's like, yeah, I had to wait 300 years for a virgin to light a candle. It's like, yeah, as a bitch. So, let's see here. Nope. Give me this. Okay. And they've also got Winnie's spell book. So they pretty much get to a cemetery because that's hollow ground. And then Winnie decides to raise her former lover, Billy Butcherson, to kind of go after them. Which, I thought he was in this movie more. Maybe it's just mainly that I would go into the parts. So they pretty much get chased into a sewer system, get back kind of out. Binks gets kind of run over. Max and them are trying to get help, going to this cop dude who's actually not a cop dude, and then trying to pretty much run around and get to, like, their parents. And they're not taking him seriously at all. He's like, listen, I fucked up. I truly and utterly fucked up. He's doing like a responsible teenager thing. I'm like, Dad, I did something very fucking stupid. But his dad doesn't believe in that it being that stupid. We then get introduced to what becomes a kind of staple of, I put a spell on you. We also get them doing kind of weird shit as they're going around. We see them pretty much stopping at this house and being convinced that this dude is the devil, even though he's really not. Figuring out that the kids are dressed up and in costumes and getting like the shit beaten out of them, losing their brooms, saying weird things that would be in lingo this in the current times. Like we see her towards the end, pretty much like, pull over, let me see your driver's license. It's weird kind of meta kind of commentary that kind of throws it out of a loop. Never mind the fact that their attempts at humor sometimes are at the expense of a serious kind of situation, which I think a lot of people would peg on kind of Marvel movies, but sometimes this is just a thing that happens in movies as well. Marvel has a bad track record of doing it as well, where like a joke's kind of thrown in there that kind of breaks your immersion and kind of breaks the seriousness of what's kind of going on, and you're like, this wasn't needed. Now, I Put a Spell on You is not one of those things. I Put a Spell on You, not because it introduces a musical number, even though they kind of think that's kind of what we wanted in the second one. It's because it's Winnie and them pretty much taking over and utilizing it as a spell, which they should have like known other kind of things to kind of go for it, or just started their kind of thing, because music and song and incantations and spellcraft are linked. So I like them doing that and then pretty much having them dance forever to keep the adults out of their kind of way. So that was actually a kind of smart tactic. They then get the idea to pretty much trap them and burn them alive in pretty much a killing kind of scenario. Allison gets the idea from looking at an oven. This is kind of strange, because this introduces a part that I previously had not even really thought of or understood until I sat down and watched this. This movie, let's see, is like 96 minutes. With this scenario that kind of goes on, this movie should have ended after here. So they pretty much get them into the school, hit them into the kiln, light them on fire, and they're dead. And they're pretty much celebrating. They've got the book. They're pretty much back at Max's house. Somehow, they come back alive. They just go back. Their bodies aren't burnt up. Their clothes aren't burnt up. And it's not really explained that the Black Flame Candle keeps them immortal for this night or stops them from being killed. There's nothing really explained of why they're able to come back here, other than to just lengthen the movie out and plot pad it for some odd fucking reason. It's not really explained if eating the children's souls or life force will keep them alive past the Black Flame Candle, or if that's their kind of containment module, i.e. they're here just until the Black Flame Candle burns out, and there's nothing that they can do, because that's pretty much just what the Black Flame Candle does. Are they just dark magic? Are they just souls that are able to affect corporeal things? It just starts breaking down some shit. And I know it can seem like I'm overanalyzing certain kind of things, and if that's your opinion, I totally get that. I'm not here to like take out the enjoyment, because I still enjoy this movie, but there's things that are like, why didn't this end here? Because then we see that they are able to pretty much capture Danny again and pretty much try and kill her. And they get the book and everything. They're trying all that they can. We get them faking pretty much sunrise and getting back to the cemetery. And Billy's actually helping them, even because he fucking hates her. But they were able to remake enough of the potion to try and do this. Sarah did her old kind of siren call to get all these children, but they only have enough for one. And when he's like, fuck this shit, I'm getting that little girl. Danny. However, Winifred gets Danny, and Max gets the potion and decides to down it himself and say, fuck this shit. However, it's pretty much dawn. The other two sisters dust out. Winnie turns to stone and then dusts out. Binks then finally passes on and reunites with Emily, and that's the end there. And you're like, okay, this is... Why did we need this kind of confrontation? The thing should have killed them, because it says that the black flame candle just brings them back for the night. It doesn't say that it protects them throughout that night, so that way if they accidentally get fucking killed or accidentally kill themselves, that it would keep them alive for that kind of length. Binks dying kind of makes sense because, well, kind of does, kind of doesn't. Mainly because the person or persons that made the whole kind of curse, the Sanderson sisters, were killed. However, if that was the case, when they were killed the first time, his curse should have broken. It creates problems that we really don't need. You can just do a clear-cut curse that's self-contained for what kind of is going on. Fine, cool, whatever. If Binks pretty much came to terms with his guilt over his sister's death because he was instrumental in defeating the Sanderson sisters, again, from doing something, sure, cool. And that way the whole guilt kind of thing is like taken out of the equation. Cool, fine, whatever. It just created more problems. Like, I still enjoy this movie. I like the costuming. I like the design. I like kind of how it flows and everything. But I didn't enjoy it as much sitting down and actually kind of like thinking about it as I had done when I would just kind of see it and kind of watch it. And I still think that everybody cast-wise involved does a good job. It's just the content goes nutty-doo-dah. We don't need the complete meta references. We don't need the witches being able to say and do things that they really shouldn't be able to say and do. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then the overall structure of like how the magic system's involved. They kind of just wanted, I guess, to have like a spooky, kid-friendly Jason, Freddy Krueger kind of movie, I guess. And they succeeded in that aim, and it just has problems that it really doesn't need and shouldn't have. And if you think this is overanalyzing, I totally get that. I'm not here to take away people's enjoyments of movies and everything like that. I have enjoyed and seen this around. It screams Halloween to me. And that's never what my objective is in doing these reviews. If you disagree with me, or don't want your enjoyment ruined, that's completely valid. It's completely alright. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, this was like a big Halloween thing for me. I'm like, huh. Looking at it now and what kind of goes on with it, it's a nice kind of introduction to Halloween things, to witches and everything like that. And then you're like, huh. This is a nice kind of stepping stone kind of movie to look into other kind of aspects of what kind of goes on. So I would still recommend it for that, and recommend it to like introducing kids and stuff like that to Halloween, and to still have your kind of Halloween tradition for it. But it's got issues that I'm like, what the fuck? Especially from starting this channel and doing these reviews and everything and looking at things like that. So, yeah. It was a very interesting experience, and I'm looking forward to kind of doing this with other kind of things as well. This kind of lined up kind of well to do this. I know this is like the day after Halloween, but I kind of have my schedules on how I do my kind of videos and everything, and it just kind of worked out like that. And I kind of wanted to do this and Hocus Pocus 2. There are other kind of horror ones that I definitely really want to get into and like have a nice like watch of them to then kind of get into them. This one's kind of a nice example of that, but also an exception. The other ones I'm really digging into getting into and like just talking about because of the ones that they are like aliens, The Thing, other kind of ones like that. I have very kind of limited ones because I'm not as much into horror as certain kind of things, and those are, of course, are sci-fi horror and other kind of things as well. But those will at some point get to. But this is just an interesting one. It's like that Halloween tradition. I wouldn't recommend not watching it, but I'd just be like, watch out for this shit, because you're going to start thinking and be like, what the fuck? Oh, and like Ghostbusters and stuff. All those kind of ones. So, those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.